to initiate one of these conversations is awkward at first.
The more you have tough conversations, the better you'll get at it.
Yes. Like the one we just had with Tim when he asked for more money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. He got a rather aggressive response. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Overlap Podcast. And in the Overlap Podcast, we discuss and study the overlaps between work, fitness, family, faith, parenting, and leadership, with the idea that becoming better in one aspect of your life helps you become better in all aspects of life. And we try to do that by simplifying big business brilliance for small business leaders. And every time I read that, I still feel that is hyperbolic to a certain degree, but that does sort of that kind of reframes the message that we started this podcast off with, is that there are tons of podcasts on business, and almost all are directed towards big business, and we want to distill that information down and make it palatable to the small business owner, operator, leader, whatever, and then to the everyday person that can kind of take those skills and get better in all aspects of life and have a full, wonderful life. And that's our goal.
And I'm still waiting for that big business brilliance to hit me.
Well, I will say that there's lots of great ideas out there, and you and I were talking about that before we kind of hit record, and there's lots of good ideas out there. It just is packaged in a way that it seems detached from the front lines, and that's not every day, man. It's like 88% of the working population in the United States works for a small business, which is defined by less than 500 employees, and that's a big business in my mind, but that's almost everybody, you know?
Yeah, pretty much. Hardly
anyone works for Exxon or NVIDIA or Tesla or Amazon. I mean, there's lots of employees, but 50,000 employees in one organization doesn't make up for 150 million workers, you know?
Well, yeah, and put it in perspective this way, is I know a lot of people. I don't know anyone that works for any of those.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so that's the idea behind the podcast. We are happy that you are tuning in. If this is the first time, welcome. If you're tuning back in, thank you so much. You're making this thing possible. And we hope that you are tuning back in because we are providing value and at least some decent insights on a weekly basis. So how you been, Keith?
I've been very good. You know, this is the first podcast, and I don't want to mention it because it may bring out the haters. But since Trump has won the election.
Yeah. Well, way to go. We successfully avoided politics in 150 episodes, and here you go.
No, I'm not weighing in on my opinion about any of it.
Good,
but,
yeah.
You know, whatever. Whether you like it, whether you don't.
The jubilation has been funny, but even more interesting is the meltdown that I guess some people think that and these are smart people that I listen to, look up to, follow. Their responses have been comical and then somewhat like disheartening that the world's going to come to an end.
I experienced a meltdown at the coffee shop this morning.
Oh my God, did you?
From an individual that I had no idea would melt down.
Really?
Yes.
Do you want to share that, or is that for
No,
off
I'm not going to share. I'm
okay.
not. This name is known, so I'm
not.
I
didn't want
that.
names.
Yeah.
I was just, you were just like, hey, how are you doing? Oh my God,
yeah,
the world's coming to an end.
The dictator's in.
Really?
That was what he said.
The dictator.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even though he left office the last time he was in there,
yeah,
relatively peacefully. I mean, I know the January 6th thing. I mean, I don't know. Let's avoid politics. I don't want to get into that. Those are different issues than what we're trying to accomplish. My message is this, and I think I've been saying that on social a lot, is that this election is not the most important election of our lifetime. They say that every single time. I feel like people, with the increase in media and social media, and really like the disparate little echo chambers that have been created from those algorithms makes everyone think that this is the end of the world. And it's so important. And I think people lose sight of the agency they have in life. And for the most part, the foundational pieces of this country are that you can kind of go and become pretty much whatever you want with some hard work. Look at J.D. Vance. Have you ever read Hillbilly Elegy?
Yeah, it's a great book.
I'm not gonna lie. I cried a little bit,
and it felt very close to what my family looked like.
Me too. I grew up in Muskogee, Oklahoma, y'all. I would say this is nowhere close to over exaggerating, but at least 95% of the people that I went to high school with that I know and can remember their names are either actively currently on methamphetamines or they're in prison. That's where I grew up. And
Wow.
J.D. Vance sounds about like you. It sounds like he went to the same school.
Yeah, it does.
I didn't go to Yale though.
No.
So whatever. Yeah, I guess some people got all the luck. He's tall, not very handsome, but he's got hair. Whatever.
I don't know. Stephanie thinks he's handsome.
Get out of here.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Annabelle's sitting in with us today too,
and she thinks
yeah.
No way, Annabelle. Come on.
Oh.
Nah, she just sees him as. I guess anyone on TV gets bumped up a point or two.
Yeah, but
Tim talking in our ear. Would you like to introduce Annabelle?
Yeah, Annabelle is my 23-year-old daughter. She lives in Orlando and she's visiting, so she wanted to come in and see what we do here. Isn't it exciting?
She's just glad we didn't give her a mic.
Yeah. Oh, she would have taken it.
Oh, she would have.
Yeah. Because we're talking about hard conversations today. Yeah. She loves those.
And that's perfect. Oh my goodness. Let's get us back on track.
So, I just said our topic today, hard conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You talk about all the time. You say this all the time, and I think it's smart. I'm giving you a compliment.
Oh, man. Thank you.
To be unclear is to be unkind. We've said that in the show a bunch.
We have.
And so I think that we need to kind of wrap on that today. A little bit is how to have conversations that most people don't want to have. I find, I know you can't believe this, but I really don't like to have confrontational conversations.
I don't either.
I don't mind having them.
I mind having them.
It's not something that I just enjoy doing, though.
I don't enjoy it. Okay, I'll say this. I think of hard conversations kind of like doing heavy squats. Does that make sense? I know I need to do them. I know that it's incredibly beneficial. I know that it's painful, and I try to avoid it. And I'll walk around looking at the weight on there. I'll procrastinate. I'll go check my phone. I'll get on, I'll do whatever I can to avoid it until I finally just go ahead and do it. And then when it's done, I feel great.
I will tell you,
or it hurts.
I do procrastinate on them until I blow up, and that's bad.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, it's not.
I know. That's me too. Me too.
And then when I blow up, then I feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Where if I would go ahead and just get into the conversation I need to have, I wouldn't so much.
Yeah. So that's really the angle we need to kind of begin with is, let's start with number one. How do you know you need to have a crucial or hard conversation? I don't want to say crucial conversation because that's going to steal the name of that book. And that's a decent book to go and take a look at.
It is.
There's lots of good ideas to kind of walk you through. So there's a little plug for that book. But how do you know you need to have one?
I think when you have a little low-level tension, I think when you feel low-level tension inside you as the leader, you may need to go ahead and have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So
because what I will do is I will bypass the tension.
Okay.
And suppress it until it reveals itself in a bigger way. Where if I would go ahead and address the tension, that it may not turn into the big conversation that I need to have. And I may be able to squelch it up front.
Yeah. So
I think as leaders, we procrastinate quite a bit on dealing with situations. And the overlap is this. How many times have we done that in our family?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Is just not say anything, and then it blow up.
Yeah, then it blows up. Yeah, I would say that your gut's going to tell you if this person is acting or responding or, in a different way. And you can usually hear it in the short kind of answer that's not normally warm and filled with pleasantries, or they're just avoiding you. You haven't seen them in a while. And that's certainly relational. I think that there's metrics too that will drive a crucial conversation or a hard conversation. I would drive home the fact that, and this kind of goes back to EOS and really to 90, which makes it super easy to track metrics on a weekly basis, monthly, quarterly. And if those metrics are going in the wrong direction, I think a good idea is to let it play out just a little bit, but how long is kind of an important decision you need to make. Is this a big issue where if they miss the mark 1 week, we need to have a talk, or is this a not as big of a issue that's time sensitive and we need to give them time to sort of change that trend back in the right direction? And really, I think those two things right there.
Well, I think metrics for us as leaders would be good also. So how long do we let it go?
Yeah.
And I don't know that I have those set. Is in my organization, I don't know, how long do I let something go slack?
Yeah.
Before I have a conversation. And maybe I need to look at putting those checkpoints in place. Do you let it go a quarter? Well, do you let it go all the way through the quarter? Do you let it go 2 weeks?
I think the answer to that question is so dynamic that it's tough to say. I'm sitting here listening and kind of running through my head. Well, one, like most things in business, it depends. What's the role? What are the metrics? Because if it is let's say it's a sales metrics, and the sales metric is that how many proposals have you written, and if it's in our world, in the landscape world, if it is a quarter like quarter 2 or quarter 3, where those commercial people aren't buying as much during those quarters, or at least that's my interpretation. That's in my head. That's anecdotal. So I'm probably making some excuses there. But, if he hasn't met the mark of writing, let's say he's supposed to write 20 proposals in that quarter and he's at 15 with, 3 weeks left, he's not going to hit that mark. Is that a big issue or a small issue?
Is the conversation enough? Is it a big issue? Is it a small issue? Or should you just have a conversation?
I think so. That's what I was going to say. It's a small issue where you could just say, hey, it doesn't look like we're going to hit this mark this quarter. Is there anything going on? Is there anything that we should look at? Is there anything else that we could be doing? Why don't we have a conversation about what else we can or could have been doing to make sure that we get there? And that opens up the open and honest line of communication. And that's what you and I were talking about before we even got on here.
I also think that conversations, I would open up the door for you to be a human.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just talking this morning at the coffee shop was lively this morning.
I can't believe I missed it.
I was at the coffee shop talking to a CEO of a company.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about a new company that they just launched. And the guy the guy that started the company with him is going through a really hard time.
Yeah.
And he had to have a conversation to find out he was going through a really hard time.
Yes.
And so a lot of times when we see someone that we perceive as slacking, they may be going through a heck of a time.
I was going to say that. And that's probably where I was going to segue that into having a conversation early allows you to gather that information without building up a story that says this person is just being lazy or this person is disengaged and doesn't want to be here. And I start taking it personal and then have a much more aggressive conversation than I should have because I didn't address it early.
Right. And I think that there's a stigma around that those of us who operate companies have no soul.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I've heard that a lot.
So our team members.
I actually sent a message this morning, sort of being sarcastic about that. Yeah.
I was told that yesterday.
Oh, good.
That I was a robot.
Yeah. Were you?
Yeah.
Did you say, no, robots are usually on time. They keep like a regular schedule. They don't like pack up and just leave, on a whim.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the most non-robot person I've ever met.
Yeah. Well, I was told yesterday I was one.
Oh,
I didn't have feelings. And that may be true. That may be true.
That's absolutely not true.
Yeah.
But you're way too in touch with your feelings.
That's right. I love feelings.
If you're a small business owner looking to take your business to the next level, listen up. My good friend Chris Francis has spent over 20 years growing his tree care business to national success. Now he's partnered with Rick Miller, you've probably heard him here on the podcast before, Harvard MBA, and business consultant to create Roadmap for Growth, an online course to help you scale, build teams, and create systems that last. It's not just for the tree industry. This course applies to any small service business. Check out treebusiness.com or hit the link on the Overlap homepage to learn more. Annabelle, your dad, Stephanie was on the podcast a few weeks ago and was talking about how she would come home and still be talking about work, and Keith would say, "Let's not talk about work." She goes, "Cool. What do you want to talk about?" And he says, "Let's talk about our love."
I love to talk about our love.
That's the most Keith saying ever. I was like, "Yep, that's on brand." Okay, but
I think a lot of times
you're not a robot. But go ahead.
So I think a lot of times our team members think that we don't care.
Yeah. Well,
we only care about the objective. But I build a team to care.
Yeah.
Of course, I want to accomplish the objective.
So here's my philosophy on that, and this is what I was going to get to about having a conversation early. And I started to kind of lay down the groundwork. I think without a conversation, and in the conversation you gather information. So without a conversation where you can get information and really connect, you don't have that information. I don't have that information. You don't either as the team member. And we all start telling ourselves a story. And in that story, with a lack of information, the story can and most likely does go to the worst possible scenario, or a worse scenario than actual reality. This guy is, I just see him over there and he doesn't have a soul and he doesn't care about anyone and all of that stuff. And then I'm telling myself a story that this person's disengaged, doesn't want to be here. He's just here for the paycheck. He's not on the team. Never mind. Maybe he's going through divorce. Maybe a kid's really sick and he hasn't mentioned it to me, or she. Maybe he or she is just really confused on how to achieve the objective and feels defeated. Maybe we need to have a conversation about how they can get back on track. But we tell ourselves a story with a lack of information, and that's never good.
Or maybe they don't feel that we are approachable.
Maybe they don't, because we haven't created an environment. It's our responsibility as leaders to create an environment and engage on a regular enough basis that they feel comfortable to have a conversation with us about what's going on.
That applies to parenting as well.
Heck yes, almost. I cuss a lot on this. What am I doing?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Could be in a pansy.
I know. Well, Annabelle's here. I'm trying to act right. My God, that was fantastic. We could almost stop there, but I really think conversations break down the perceived story that's almost always, I say almost because there's always some outlier, but it's always freaking wrong, It's always wrong. And I can be so confident in my assertion of what the situation is, and it's almost always wrong. Until I have a conversation, I'll just be stuck in my head thinking one thing and it's not right.
Have you ever had an assumption that just proved to be absolutely wrong about an individual?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you had the conversation, you were like,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what you're thinking.
So, and I've got two or three of those, and they've been super eye-opening throughout my career. And you would think with those experiences that would change me forever. And then I would have more conversations more often,
but it doesn't
not make assumptions.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work like that. I always have to be intentional and kind of push myself into having a conversation with people. So I think we've kind of addressed a little bit on the front end. When do you have a conversation? We talked about metrics, gut feel, others' reactions. When we start spinning a story up in our head, that should be a natural reaction to go, oh, we better have a conversation instead of just assuming, because you know what assumptions do. The next question, I think, is okay, we've addressed that we have to have a conversation. How do we do it?
Yeah, is there steps you got for that?
I mean, I don't know. We could talk about this. I will say this.
I'm pretty awkward in it.
I'll give you the end and sort of work backwards. I'll say this. The more you have tough conversations, the better you'll get at it.
Yes.
The more you train jujitsu, the better you'll get at it. That's the only way of doing it.
But I think you do have to get comfortable with the awkward situations.
Yeah. Well, you get comfortable.
Because to initiate one of these conversations is awkward at first.
Sure. I would just start with the end, just going, when you get through one or two of them, let's just say the first one, and you don't die, on the other side, in like no one, the building didn't burn down or whatever, they didn't come in with an AK-47 and sort of like shoot everyone.
You mean the one we just had, like the one we just had with Tim when he asked for more money?
Oh yeah, that was a good one. He got a rather aggressive response. Well, no, I told Tim that I always like to be the guy that says yes.
Yeah, me too. I would love to.
But we can make that happen if get us there, and then I love that. So with the end in mind, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. The first thing I think you need to do is one, like set a time and make sure it's in person. If you're a business leader, a business owner, and you don't really have an office, or you don't have a private space, go someplace else. You could take a walk. You could go to a coffee shop. Although, if you live in Fairhope, there's only a few that you could go to that you don't already know everybody.
Yeah, I can't do anything in a coffee shop.
Yeah, those are tough.
Basically, I'm too famous here.
You really are. Isn't that right, Annabelle? So famous. So fresh. So famous. But either way, you got to find a place that's a little private so people can feel, eventually, if they warm up to it, they can be open and honest. It's tough to do that when there's lots of people walking around. So you got to have a decent setting. Number two, I think for me, I try to go in with a little bit of compliment. And what I'm doing is in my mind, I'm framing the conversation with the person. I'm really sort of prepping myself with gratitude that this person is actually working here. These are some of the good things that they've done. I really am appreciative. I'm not actually trying to do that to butter you up, and I'm not trying to do like the compliment sandwich.
You're not picking me up before you let me down.
Yeah, but I think it is, in my mind, it's psychological. Like the segue in an L10 meeting, it humanizes it. I want you to know that I actually appreciate these 1, 2, 3 specific things that you've done really well over the last year or month or whatever it is. I want you to know that. But then I segue in. But what I really am here to talk to you about today is X, Y, Z, or, hey, we've got 3 weeks left in the quarter and it doesn't look like we're going to hit that target. And I just want to have a conversation about what could we have done? What can we do moving forward? And is there anything going on that I need to know about? That seems pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Why do we avoid it?
What is the show we recorded a couple months ago or a month or two ago? Goals versus
standards.
Yeah.
Standards
So
versus goals.
have I identified the standard?
Yeah.
And this isn't just a goal; it's a standard.
Yeah. This is the standard. Exactly.
Yeah. So have I identified them? And after that episode, I started looking at the standards that I've identified, and I figured out I had identified very few. And I made it more goal sounding.
Yeah. Aspirational instead of just, what do you call that? There's a word, but just like the price to play, it's just, that is the standard. We have to hit these metrics to be able to play. This is not an aspirational goal. This is how you actually get paid. This is how you generate enough revenue for us to pay you.
Or just keep the doors open.
Yeah, or keep the doors open.
Yeah.
So I like to start with gratitude. If there's some there, sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's I don't know, but I try to do that. It humanizes and at least lets you know that I see you. Because I think subconsciously I understand. I've heard it enough that evil business owners and capitalists are soulless, and the media and like modern society or culture does a good job of villainizing capitalists, and I get it, some of them are bad, but I'm probably sensitive to that and try to break those barriers down a little bit to let you know that I am there. When I do have the conversation, I'm probably, like I said, the more I've had, the better I get at it. I'm looking for something that I don't understand. There's a gap between your performance and where I think you should be or could be, and I'm looking for what that is. So my questions usually center around that. What's your experience?
I was thinking that most of the time it's from a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I'm misunderstanding what you're trying to accomplish. Because maybe I've not identified what you should accomplish and I've left you in the dark.
Yeah.
And not identified the standard.
Yeah.
And so I think miscommunication, especially around missing goals or missing identifiers that you need to do in your position, it's usually my fault. And so when I go into a hard conversation, I'm trying to think about, okay, what part of this did I cause as the leader?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's probably not just the person that I'm having the conversation with. It's probably some of my fault too.
Yeah.
And so every conversation and family also, when I go into a situation, Stephanie would tell you I don't do this, but I try to say.
But you feel like you do.
Yeah, I feel like I do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so what am I missing that I did not communicate well?
Yeah.
And so I think that a tactic to have a hard conversation is go in with your faults also.
Yeah. So in a business setting, and I'm sure there's the same in like a family relational setting, there seem to be a ton of initiatives, revenue, productivity, whatever, profitability, labor as a percentage of income. There's lots of initiatives and lots of things that are important. And what can happen is that there's just a misalignment on what's most important for that individual's role and responsibility. They think should be focused on this because we weren't, like you said, weren't crystal clear about no, it's not that. It's actually this, and that will drive that other thing that you're thinking about. This is the activity, the crucial driver, the critical driver that will produce the results that we're all looking for. And that's really where I was going to, what I'm trying to get to in this portion of the conversation is just you have to think about you are the coach, you know?
So you said lead with gratitude. I try to lead with what's my play in this.
Sure. So humility.
Yeah.
Humility.
And so when I go into a hard conversation, I begin with that, is because gratitude can sometimes, I think, feel like I'm trying to butter you up before I let you down.
Yeah. If you don't do it right, it can seem disingenuous. If you do it right, I think they do feel seen, heard, appreciated. And so I feel like they can take the constructive criticism because they know you're looking at the good and the bad. Hell, I'm not a professional at this. I've written 0 books on crucial conversations. So this advice is just from my experience, you know. But I do think that.
But I will say, as I've gotten older, I've had more successful, crucial conversations.
Yeah. Like I said, the more you do it, the better you get at it. The more comfortable, the more relaxed, the more human it can seem.
Do you feel, though, I was just thinking about this. When business is good, I have very few crucial conversations.
Yeah, man, that's, yeah.
And I think maybe I shouldn't just have them when things are going bad.
Yeah, I would say that's the beauty of EOS and 90 in particular with the quarterly conversations.
Speaking of 90, did you see the new toolbox they released this week?
I've been at a conference all week.
It's pretty cool.
I have not seen it.
The way that they put that all of their tools in an actual toolbox in 90 and highlighted them, and they're integrating AI with it. It's pretty cool.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to dig into that this weekend.
Yep.
What a nerd I am.
But yeah, so yeah, I think that maybe, and go ahead and say what you were saying. You were saying
I was just saying
because of 90
and the quarterly conversations in there, that sort of drives you to make sure that you have those. I think you start to build up a little bit better. Well, if you're doing your one-on-ones, whether that's weekly or every other week, we do ours every other week, and then you're having a longer, more deep dive into the performance and personal, really what I'm trying to do is kind of look at their performance, how you feeling about things, you feeling good about the next quarter, all of that stuff. You start to break down some barriers and you start to develop with the time spent, a open and honest line of communication where you can have those little tougher conversations, a little bit more directive, a little bit more critical conversation easier because you've put in the time, you've put in the work. I was going to say this, is that I think most of my life has been so team sport centered that I think of everything like team sports. And really the best coaches I've ever had are the ones that somehow gave me constructive criticism in a way that I heard it and drove me to become better, because you don't get better without, correction.
You know what always got my attention?
I wasn't born doing everything perfect,
Do they have suicides in soccer?
Suicides? No, not many, I don't think.
You know what a suicide is?
I was like, I thought you meant
not like
actual
death.
them offing themselves.
No.
Yeah, they call them ladders. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you can imagine how big a soccer field is, how painful that can be.
Oh, that must be way worse than basketball.
Way worse. Speaking of, so in preseason training in 2-a-days, we would run 7 miles. I'm not lying. It's 7 miles. We clocked it through hills to a park. And it was like the gnarliest hill that you could see on grass. And we would do suicides up this hill.
Ugh.
Then we would run back. And this was all before breakfast. It was terrible.
Suicide's always got my attention.
Yeah, they get my attention. Yeah. Oh, so getting in trouble?
Yeah.
Do suicides? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they yell at you when you start slacking off?
Yep.
They start throwing stuff?
Yep.
Yeah.
I knew the day was going to be bad when the garbage cans came out on each end of the court.
Yeah. That's good. Run until you puke?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about my friend Wes Cody. He's the president of C2 Wealth Strategies, a financial advisory firm dedicated to providing personalized solutions for your financial needs. Wes and his team of professionals are passionate about helping clients create wealth and achieve financial freedom. At C2 Wealth Strategies, they believe in taking a holistic approach to financial planning and are committed to building long-lasting relationships with their clients, ensuring their financial well-being every step of the way. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Contact Wes and C2 Wealth today at c2wealth.com to schedule a consultation. Let Wes and his team help you build your financial future.
I want to take a moment to talk about someone who's been instrumental in my personal and business success. That's Johnny Barranco and his team at Barranco & Associates. For over 7 years, Johnny has been my go-to accountant and financial consultant. I can tell you that he's more than just a tax preparer. Johnny takes a holistic approach to all my financial dealings, aligning them with my long-term plans and personal lifestyle. I've recommended Johnny to several friends throughout different business groups around the country, and the feedback has been nothing short of exceptional. His expertise and service are top-notch. So if you're looking for someone who not only prepares your taxes, but also helps you strategize for the future, Johnny and his team at Barranco & Associates are the ones to call. Trust me, you won't regret it. So contact Johnny Barranco today and take the first steps towards financial peace. You're not going to regret this.
So what would you say is 3 tips, tactics to begin crucial conversations?
Well, I think the beginning was recognizing that you need to have one, and recognizing that you if you're feeling it or if you see it in the metrics, you don't need to wait, because the longer you wait, the bigger that the problem can become. And really, even more importantly, is the bigger, I think, a resentment will start to build up, and you'll address it more aggressively. That doesn't help you or the person you want to help. I'll say this: you need to tell yourself, and you need to remind yourself in the business world that it's just going to be a hell of a lot cheaper and with less pain, and really to the point of your organization and your leadership to have a conversation and redirect this person to get them back on track. That's the optimal outcome. Not, we just need to get rid of this person. Because I think those thoughts can run through people's mind, and it's false. It's going to cost so much money, take so much time and focus away from you. It's a net negative if that happens. Number 2, I think you gotta find a good way to segue in. Like you said, if it's humility, hey, I understand that perhaps I wasn't clear in my directions, but I'd like to have a conversation about this. Or if it's, hey, I want you to know that I've recognized these, your efforts in this and then the way you handled that, but I want to have a conversation about this today. And really, I'm looking for in that conversation where that person is currently. I want to make sure that I say, hey, currently what you're doing is this, and this as I see it, or as the metrics are showing. But where I really need you to be is here. And so there's a gap between where you are and where I need you to be and where I think you should be. I'd like to discuss, what's in that gap and why do we have that gap? Is there something going on? Is there something I'm missing? And I'm looking for answers for that. And then 3, I think, psychologically, mentally, whatever, I think for me, I need to make sure that I see myself as a coach. And here's where I think providence comes into play. And I always feel a little uncomfortable talking about that, but it's the reality is that, I think, I don't know, quite a while back, I did have to sit and wonder, how have I gotten to this point in my life where there's this many people that work for me or work with me, all of that stuff. And really the purpose is to help people. If I'm not doing that, what am I doing? If I'm not doing that, what's the purpose of it all? And so I should be trying, honestly, this sounds so corny, to be helping God's people that God has kind of put in my path. I should be trying to help them to become the best that they can be. And the overlap of all of this, and really the foundation of this podcast is that by doing that, having some influence in this business world, I can hopefully help them become better in all other aspects of their life. And if I'm doing that, man, I'm probably doing God's work. And that sounds crazy when we're talking about soulless, heartless capitalists. But that's really my thought and my philosophy. And I'll say that I don't always execute that very well. I'm emotional, and sometimes I procrastinate, and I don't handle it the way I should, and I might be overly aggressive. I'm a freaking passionate guy, but the more I have conversations that are a little bit tough, the better I get at it, and the closer I get to the ideal outcome that I'm looking for.
I don't know that we could just clip that whole segment right there and throw it as the podcast. That was beautiful.
Oh man,
I'm crying a little bit.
Oh my God,
over here. But no, this
is why we're not on video.
You phrased that so well.
Yeah, this is why we're not on video.
And so it all comes out to be unclear is to be unkind.
It really is to be unkind. Because they can't fix something that they can't see. And it's really tough to see. And most people are not so self-aware that they recognize those things. They think that they're going through their day and being the best that they can be. And they are. They honestly are. And I would say very few exceptions. People are slacking off and being lazy and actively trying to
hurt you on purpose.
Yeah. Yes. No one's sitting around twisting their mustache going, how can I screw this guy over today? Well, not no one, but very, very, very few.
Right.
So with that in mind, my goal and my job really is to be helpful and say, hey, I don't think you see this, but this is what you're doing, or this is how you're coming across, or whatever it is. And that should be life altering, sometimes. It should be helpful at the very least. And we should be trying to help people become the best that they can be. Another thing just before we get before we get off of this, sometimes that person's in the wrong seat, isn't a good fit for them. Sometimes they're in the wrong organization. And it doesn't help me to keep this person around. I should be trying to help them get someplace else. Hey, let's say we have the conversation, and that's what it all boils down to. You hate your job or whatever, or the position you don't like. So I don't know, and your heart's really in, I don't know, graphic design. Let's say that. I'm just making that up. Well, who do I know in the graphic design world? Can I help you get there? And if I do that, I'm just actually doing a good job of helping the person that God put in my path, and only good stuff comes from that. Only good comes from that, not negative. The world is not a zero sum game. It really is. The more good I put out in the world, the more comes back.
You said it at the first of the show, and you said that we are to be a coach. And
yeah,
everything you just described, coaches do.
Yeah, man.
Good coaches do.
Good coaches.
Yeah.
Good coaches.
So be a coach.
Yeah.
To your people.
Yeah.
So have crucial conversations.
Exactly. To be unclear is to be unkind. All right.
So we want to be kind to our sponsors today.
Yeah, we do. Please be kind to our sponsors.
Be kind to them. Please support them. They, for some reason, believe in us and like to hear us talk. So,
and if you, if this episode or some others in the past have struck a chord with you, and that it might be helpful for someone else, please share the podcast. That will kind of get the good word out, and we would appreciate that highly.
And then if you want to talk to us, our virtual selves,
go
to our website and talk to our chat bot, Overlap Echo.
Yeah.
You can ask us questions. It'll answer all of that good stuff. It'll answer it the exact way we would.
It's pretty cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And good luck with your hard conversations going into the fourth quarter.
Go have a hard conversation today.
All right.
Peace.